Memphis Shades Road Warrior fairing on a 2022 Harley Street Bob. Today I'm going to talk about my thoughts and opinions on this thing and put it to a true test on the highway. We are getting ready to take the Harley Street Bob out for a little ride through Philly, hit up some of the suburbs, and what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at my new Memphis Shades Road Warrior fairing. If you guys have been tuning in for a little while, you know that I installed this thing a couple weeks back. We've got some good riding time in with it so far, so what I want to do is give you guys my thoughts and impressions, a little bit of review of the fairing, how I feel about it so far, and some of the tips and tricks if you are interested in getting this fairing, because it does come in a lot of different sizes with your screens here. Also, Memphis Shades also has other various styles, you know, cafe fairings, batwing fairings and stuff like that. But we're going to go ahead, get my thoughts and opinions of this so far. You can take a look at it now of what it's going to look like on a Street Bob, for example. This is definitely probably one of the most popular fairings, I would say, I see on Softails and Dynas. You see them on the Street Bobs, the Lowrider S's, all those different models. So right now, just giving you kind of a slow little walk around of what this thing kind of looks like for you on my Street Bob right now. As far as the looks go, I absolutely love the look. I love how it gives kind of that sharp angle to the front of the bike. So looks, here's what you got for your looks. I like it. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments of the looks and what it has done to my bike so far. But also another very, very important aspect of this thing is, does it block wind? Because that's another huge thing that I was having some issues with when I first got the bike. Obviously naked up front as the Bob or the Street Bob. When I was out on the highway or getting up around like 55 or above, I felt like I was flying off this thing. So I was really excited to be able to actually work with Memphis Shades on this. Again, friend of the show, friend of the channel. Huge shout out to them for sending out the Road Warrior fairing here. Make sure you check them out. I will link up their info down in the description, of course. But like I said, what we're going to do now is we're going to hop on the bike, take it for a little ride. We'll be going slow at first. I'll give you kind of my thoughts and opinions of what it is, just from kind of a riding perspective. And then what we're going to do is we're going to hop out on the highway and give you some of my thoughts and opinions on how it performs from that perspective when we get up about 75, 80, see how it really does with some of that wind coming in. Alrighty, so now obviously we are on the bike now. This will give you a little bit of an idea of what the fairing is going to look like from your view, from your vantage point. So again, it's the Road Warrior fairing from Memphis Shades. I have the 11-inch dark smoke screen on there. So that was one of my questions initially. I wasn't entirely sure what screen to go with. And that's a really big topic and talking point of the fairing itself. So to give you guys some insight, I am 5'6". And so far, I feel like the 11-inch screen has been pretty good for me so far. Now, you could go 13. I believe they go all the way up to 15 and down to maybe like 9 or 6 possibly. I forget the exact numbers. But at 5'6", 11 has been pretty good for me. So I'm kind of seeing right over top of it and a little bit through it if I need to. I feel like 13 possibly for me would be a little bit too high. It might be blocking my whole face. I would kind of be a little bit above, a little bit below. But that's one of the things that you kind of initially have to get used to with this anyway. Obviously, coming from this just with a totally naked front with the Street Bob, I was able to just really see, you know, right straight ahead. I could see everything coming right on the road. You do kind of have to just adjust your vision a little bit. It's something that you just kind of have to get used to. For me, being around the city and stuff like that, the roads are just terrible, and it's just kind of something I've gotten a little bit used to with having the fairing on. I used to just kind of have a direct shot right at the ground, looking at bumps, looking at all these imperfections in the road and stuff, but just something for me to get a little bit more used to is actually having something up here now. You just kind of got to be a little bit more cognizant of that, be a little bit more aware of that, of where you're keeping your eyes on the road. So as far as actually riding with it on the bike, again, this is what it's going to look like for you. That was really just kind of only the main difference that I kind of thought of was, you know, you just kind of have that thing in your eyesight, in your plane of vision now. Just something to be aware of. For example, with my Memphis Shades Cafe fairing, it's obviously a lot lower. I'm still got a direct shot down at the ground. But with this one being a little bit bigger, it's just something to kind of be aware of, something that you're going to have to get a little bit used to as you continue to ride with it. Again, that's only if you're coming from just a totally naked front end. You know, if you're used to like a street glide, road glide fairings and stuff like that, this is going to be absolutely no issue for you. Again, the only other thing I would really say about sizes of the screens, again, I'm 5'6", I feel like 11 is okay. If you're taller, I think you could probably go with a higher one and be all right. Again, if you're shorter, you might go with a shorter one. So just some of those little details to kind of keep in mind. Also, another thing I would say is if you plan on swapping out your seat, I would swap out your seat first, okay? Now, the reason I would say swap out your seat first is because your seat's probably going to change your riding position a little bit. Whatever seat you get might drop you down, might prop you up. And that's one of the things you want to consider, because if you go ahead and you get your screen first or your fairing first, you might be like, okay, I got it, it's in a good spot, I like it. But then if you go ahead and have your seat drop you up or down, that would be a consideration. So I would say get your seat first, then get your fairing. That's going to help you get the thing dialed in a little bit more better, in my opinion. So as far as wind protection, obviously I think that's a huge reason why people get these looks, wind protection. So obviously the main piece of the Road Warrior right here, as you can see right off the bat, even if you were just riding with that and no screen, that thing's going to remove a lot of wind off of your chest in the first place. So then you add the screen to it, that's going to help deflect a little bit even more. I know one thing people are always concerned about, and again, this kind of goes back to your height and your setup, depending on where the screen is. They say, you know, is it going to send it more into my face? Again, that's just something you kind of have to get dialed in through a little bit of trial and error. But this section down low, this is going to really displace a lot of wind from it coming directly at you to around and outside of you. Because if you look at the size of this thing, obviously not a full fairing, but you see the size of it, it really is big enough to do a great job of deflecting all that air around you. So like I said, next up we're gonna hop on this highway up here, see how it does on the highway. Forgive me if any audio cuts in or out. Hopefully this thing will block wind so all the audio still comes in. I don't usually record a lot on the highway, so we will see how my setup does out there, and maybe the Road Warrior will even help that a little bit. All right, so we're gonna hit this highway right here. This is 309 North, if anybody is familiar with this. This ends up outside of Philly to some of the suburbs, out to like Horsham, Warminster, Doylestown, places like that. Not necessarily a highway that you're supposed to be going super fast on. I think the speed limit's like 55 or 65, something like that. But it's usually not super busy, so we should be able to get up to speed here. So let's test this thing out. So we're fourth gear, 61 miles an hour right now. Very comfortable with my grip on the handlebars. Not feeling a lot of wind on the chest, not feeling a lot of wind on the face just yet. Now, I will say the thing that I noticed is it displaces it out kind of onto your arms, which in my opinion that's okay, because your arms obviously have less surface space than your chest or something like that. If it's coming right at your chest, you kind of get that feeling like you're getting like yanked off or like pulled right off. And that's what I was experiencing early on when it was like totally naked up here. Now, as we got up above 65, I don't know if it's just a windy day, but now about 65, 67, 68, 69, 70. Now I'm starting to feel it a little bit on the face, but nothing too crazy. I will say even my Memphis Shades Cafe fairing on my Sportster does a good job of displacing the air off of my chest, kind of redirecting it. But because it is smaller, my head would usually take most of the wind, which wasn't terrible. It's better than like absolutely nothing at all. There would be times on that where, you know, my head would start to like shake and back and forth if it was a windy day on the highway and stuff. All right, so let's start to get up to a little bit more speed here. Let's hope traffic keeps moving. So we are in fifth gear now. 75, 79, 80. And yeah, I mean, I gotta be honest, it feels pretty good and pretty comfortable. You combine in the weight of this bike, of the Softail Street Bob, at about 650 or so. You got this fairing on here. Now, obviously, like I said, you're gonna be taking some air to the face, obviously to the head. If you want to call it buffeting or buffering, you know, some people say they have an issue with it, some people don't. 11-inch windscreen on here, I'm pretty comfortable. I mean, I'm locked in right now. We're going 70, that's a decent highway speed. We got a little bit of traffic blocking us. We got 75 right here. I could be out on the highway doing this all day. 76, 77. Let me go up a little bit higher. Okay, now when I come up a little bit higher like this, now I'm starting to take a lot more wind to the helmet. When I sit back down into my normal riding position, that's where it's pretty comfortable. And again, that's just going to depend on how tall you are and what windscreen that you go with. Floating a little bit back down to 70, 71, 72. Feels pretty comfortable. Again, I could take a hand off right here and I don't feel like I'm getting pulled off or anything. So that's super good, super comfortable. I can look at it, I can go one hand. When I do this on my Sportster on the highway, I'm kind of like death gripping the throttle over here, trying to hang on. But yeah, so we're gonna take an exit up here, get off the highway, and wrap this one up for you guys. So there you have it. We just hopped off the highway. We were floating around 70 to 80, I would say, most of that, like little 5-mile stretch there. And I gotta be honest, it was very comfortable for me. Much more comfortable than absolutely nothing at all. Again, even a lot of the smaller Memphis Shades fairings do a lot of help as well, like I said, with my cafe fairing on the Sportster. So like I said, I had ridden this thing naked a little bit on the highway, like 75, 80, 85, and honestly, I just felt like I was getting like pulled off. If you think of the position of the bars here, wind coming directly at your chest. So now that we've got the fairing here, displacing that off the chest, the screen displacing off the head, feels pretty good. I'm very excited for next season. We're winding down now. It's about November, December already, but very excited for next season to get some long distance rides in here on this, not get so beat up by the wind. So again, just to recap some of my thoughts and opinions, I am 5'6", Memphis Shades Road Warrior fairing, 11-inch dark smoke. Again, might have some trial and error with that, adjusting different heights of screens, seats, where it puts and stuff. But once you find that right position, I think you guys are going to like it. If you have any questions on the Memphis Shades Road Warrior in my experience so far, drop them down in the comments and let me know. If you already have experience with it, let me know what you think about it. Definitely interested to hear anyone's feedback and your experience with the fairing yourself. So like I said, we're going to finish up this little ride on a abnormally warm fall day here in November through Horsham, PA. As always, if you like anything we got going on here, be a friend, tell them to stop by, subscribe to the channel, and like this video. Make sure you guys ride safe out there. It's the Moto John. We'll see y'all on down the road. Peace.